always alert people that you're gonna turn it on and then we can all cover our ears. Sorry about that. So you can go to today, you know, the sort of, well, we can go to our committee. Well, that's what I'm trying to find. Committee for under government. Oh, oh, thank you very much. Town committee, and then you go to us. Here we are, 629. Why did the? I think it was budget related. They had to approve the budget maybe.
They moved it from Wednesday to Tuesday for some
And I
reason.
think in order to have a quorum, they
I
had
know
to
that.
move it.
I'm saying why. That's what I'm saying. I know that they met, but I was wondering why. I don't know.
But maybe they weren't gonna have a quorum.
Yeah.
Moved it to Tuesday to approve the budget. so
Yeah.
that-
I was just curious.
We should be, well, I needed.
So can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Am I being magnified? Good.
You just get the track, right? Thank you. Yeah, I think you weren't. And I didn't catch a single.
Okay, well, we have a quorum, so I think we can call the meeting to order. And I'll start with roll call. Catherine McGill. Megan Richards.
Miriam Plunder. Nona Chariello. Judith Murphy.
And here's Peter. Is it Peter? Yeah. Okay. So what first thing I'd like to do is to introduce Nancy Freire. Who is a potential candidate for the Open Conservation Committee seat for Paul. And so she is here. She's interested. She has a background in enology, growing grapes more. I think. So she has a adjacent horticulture adjacent position. So anyway, she's here to observe. Great. And Craig Draymond is online.
I think we have an echo.
I don't know, Craig, did you say something?
No, I just unmuted.
Okay, good. I think we're good. Okay, so oral communications for items that are not on the agenda. Does anybody have any oral communications?
That's why I'm here.
Okay. What do you have to talk to us about?
Well, I've been working with your fire marshals for about 5 years to lower the fire fuels in both Portola Valley and Woodside. I've been working with the town of Woodside for about 6 years at their 14-acre Kite Hill Preserve. And with monthly mowing in spring, we've gotten rid of most of the flammable weed grasses, and we're down to the wildflower and the native grass layer. Similar to what's been happening at your spring down meadow, that the wildflowers are coming back with the extra mowing.
Mhm.
And what I'd like your conservation committee to consider is the once a year spring mowing for fire safety of our weed grasses is completely useless. That fire fuel's still on the ground, ready to burn, ready to fuel a wildfire anytime between now and December when the rains start decaying it back into mulch. So last year during the drought, I went around to both Woodside and Portola Valley and measured the amount of mowed weedgrass fuel still on the ground in September. And in your Springdown Meadow, the Frog Pond, the field behind the town center, we're talking 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of weedgrass straw still on the ground per acre, ready to burn. With this new extra rainfall this year, if you go to where they mowed the hillside above the parking lot at Arastradero Preserve, in May, I weighed 17,000 pounds of mowed weedgrass straw per acre. It's very easy to do. You take 1 square foot of that mowed wheatgrass straw, put it on a gram scale, weigh it in grams, multiply that number by 100, and you get the pounds per acre. The highest.
Craig, I think you've exceeded the 3 minutes we have for this, and I think we need to refer this to the Springdown and Frog Pond subcommittees to see whether or not there's any interest in pursuing that. I think there's some factual errors that that you have that maybe should be clarified at some point. But thank you for bringing this to our attention again.
I was going to tell you, have the perfect example along one of your roads. You have a Danthonia meadow. It only produces 200 pounds per acre of fire fuel a year. And so if you take a look at your native grass.
Yeah,
Warriors.
we can't talk about this at this point. This is,
Sure.
we just need to refer it to the subcommittees.
Okay.
So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Actually, this is a good segue. It's obviously it's not, can you hear me? Is that working?
I think it doesn't look like Craig left. I think he left.
No, I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to you.
Good.
What I'm saying is this is a good segue because he mentioned mowing once a month. I understand that there is a major change that is coming, and Mary can maybe quickly say something about the budget.
That's
And-
on the agenda.
Oh,
further
is it on
down.
the agenda? Okay, take it all back.
The
Take it all back.
agenda,
Okay.
and you're right, it does fit in with it, but
Okay.
we can't go there yet.
Sorry.
So
Um,
I just want to say that as a separate item under oral communications, we should have had the charter revision on the agenda tonight, and it's my fault it's not there because the subcommittee carefully met right after our last meeting because Yogi was leaving town, and we worked it out, and I wrote it up and I sent it off, but I just discovered the other day when I couldn't figure out why it wasn't on the agenda that I'd sent it to myself instead of to Catherine. So as one of the less technically proficient people on the committee, that's entirely my fault.
I will make sure it's on the agenda for next
I
next
sent it to
month.
her today when I figured it out. From one email to the other, though, at least I didn't just send it to the same.
Okay. I think is it on the agenda?
Oral.
Okay, well then you go. I think. Yep. You have 3 minutes.
I know what you're gonna say, but I think it's fine. I don't really know.
But that's never stopped you.
Think of what?
Thule elk,
Elk.
some kind of elk.
The native elk. Oh.
Would you like elk wandering through your garden? Challenging the
would,
deer
but-
for your roses.
It's, I believe, a grazer instead of a browser. Is that correct?
Mixed.
Mixed, okay, so it does browse too. Grazers, I wouldn't mind. Browsers bothered.
Have you ever been to Jackson Hole in rutting season?
I remember people hitting out
Yeah,
in Colorado.
that's a big problem. Okay, let us move on to approval of the minutes. Thank you, Mary. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I have one little thing that's just a tidying clarification.
Mhm.
That is under 6 old business B committee on cooperation. One is Public Works and 2, the title should actually be WFPD. That the islands of vegetation, et cetera, was all under the Woodside Fire Protection District piece.
I didn't really.
And that they're fabulous minutes.
They are. So with that change, and can you say the change again, because I didn't hear the whole thing.
Under number 6, old business,
Mhm.
B,
The second time it shows up, not the first time. Go ahead.
committee town cooperation. Number 2 just starts out islands of vegetation. And on the agenda, number 2 was Woodside Fire Protection District.
Got
So
it.
it gives it contextualizes what that discussion
So
is
just
about.
add W.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. So does anybody
There's
have?
actually a typo.
I just saw that. Under 4, site permit, particularly as related to the role. There's just a D missing to the role of the company. See that in the 3rd line?
No. What, 4A?
4 site
Oh.
permits. 880 West Street.
Relate.
As relates or related, yeah, whatever. Sorry about that.
Good. So with those changes, let us vote to approve
I
them.
move that we approve as corrected.
Aye. Any nays? Okay, great. So let's move on and touch on, so 35 Possum was essentially a re-review of a site that Marianne, we just got the report for that, so that's great. 127 Ramoso, I forgot to put on this list, but that one is, there was some,
Lighting.
Hmm?
The lighting.
the lighting, but there was also an planting plan.
Oh, do it?
Yeah,
Okay,
so we need to go back and look at.
I'll check out, did they put it on the
Yes. Yes.
retrievable? Okay.
Yes, it's in the box.
And I sent you comments. I sent you comments.
Yeah, and him.
And you and Peter. I sent all 3 of you comments that I tried to review the planting plan And they have plants listed. And quantities, I don't know where they go. The only things I could figure out where they went were the ones that had already been commented on by ASCC with respect to the toyons and one of the manzanitas that they wanted to plant. So I didn't even know how to comment because I honestly couldn't figure out where they were talking about putting the shrubs and stuff.
Okay, so let's circle back on that and get that one done. I think
So did we skip 350 Grove?
350 Grove, that's the. Right now. Yeah, and we sent it in.
Is that the one on the creek in the back?
It doesn't matter. I just was
Yeah.
trying to capture it for
Yeah,
the minutes.
yeah,
Is there
I'll
anything-
have to clarify, yeah.
Was there anything to say about that, or was it reviewed?
No,
with
it
no
was just a
issues,
review,
as it
yeah.
was with yours, Mary Ann, right?
Yep.
Correct? Reviewed,
Right.
no issues?
Yep. Yeah, I remember talking about that. Good. Okay. No tree permits? And so old business, let's move on to oversight of the town-owned properties. Yogi's not here to talk about Frog Pond, and I don't know what the, does anybody
Did he
have?
tell you anything
No, no.
to say? Let me tell you a few things I know. The willow that the school district wanted taken out, we went out the day after our last meeting and looked at the correct willow, and it absolutely does need to come out, and we, or Yogi, let them know. And then Mary and I did a dry run of having the horses eat the Harding grass.
Yeah.
Because we talked about having a community horse social day there. And sorry, there wasn't time to really organize a group of people, et cetera, but Mary brought her 3 horses and a tethering ring, and I went out and we watched her ponies munch the Harding grass, which they loved. And they stayed nicely in place contentedly because they were very happy with what they were eating. So the concept is, and we can talk about this in the future because I think it would be best if we co-sponsored it with open space trails because they do equestrian stuff. The various people who are interested in the equestrian community and really co-sponsor it, make it a community day. It's a big enough property and there's enough Harding grass to make a lot of horses happy. And various suggestions been made, like a portable electric fence, but it seems to me if the homeowners if they're all residents and they bring tethers and whatever that, I don't know how far into that we need to go. We don't need to plan now. I just wanted to
Right.
let you know that our little trial was a great success.
Excellent. That
And-
is really good
And,
news.
and ideally in the spring before when we got there, it was this high. It would be nice to get there when it's much lower, especially if our mowing is going to be constrained.
Yes.
Did you take pictures?
Yes, we had a few pictures.
I think it'd be great to have pictures.
I'd love to see pictures of that.
Yeah. I think very something.
Well, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Really cool. Great, great job.
And then segueing on to Springdown. Springdown, I hope you've seen it all lately. The puppies did really well. It wasn't our most lush year, but it was a pretty good year. Actually, I would have thought it was better given how much rain we had. But the tidy tips did much better than I expected. I went out a couple times and weeded around the little patches and they really came up and did super well. So in an ideal world, they will reseed and there'll be more next year, but we'll see. Yes, especially there were a few in the larger field inside the path that kind of got lost in the grasses, but they were there. But between the circular path and Springdown, that area before the creek, they were lush down in there. There were a lot of them. They were beautiful.
But, you know, when I was out looking for seedlings, the only ones I saw that we planted were all the Lupinus densiflora.
Mm.
Right, but,
Yeah.
Succulentus.
Huh?
Succulentus.
well, succulentus is native to that area. so,
Yeah.
it's kind of ready to buy.
Was it the little one or the big one?
The succulentus is a big one, the densiflora is a pretty good size one too.
And that's the one you saw, the smaller?
The seedling, yeah.
Because I was worried that maybe we should do only the tall ones because the weeds come up a certain height.
Could be, and I wonder- Good, because it's,
Hmm,
the other one.
Interesting.
Actually, I went there this week and I wanted to actually thank Howard and the public works people. They did a really good job this year. There are no thistles. I couldn't find any invasive. So this is a job really well done. And we'll get to it when we talk about the money. If that job now will stop because of money, that would be a tragedy and money really wasted for the last 5 years,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. But a real kudos for public works. They did a
That-
really great
that's
job.
great.
Actually, the other people. that you guys
Well, it's
did.
Public Works. They,
Oh, they
they,
pay for it. I
they
got it.
subcontract with Go Native. And I had them do a little more hand weeding this time than just
It
mowing.
was well done.
Yeah, so we spaced out the mowing a little bit more and did a day of the two of hand weeding the crappy stuff.
So, birds will dwell on it. So I
Yeah.
understand seeding.
Particularly given the wet winter. You know, given the wet winter, it was really a very good job. Good job.
So next year we will probably have to plan a volunteer day for Springdown.
Right.
If our mowing is going to be lower, either a weed whacker brigade. You know, we tried that and had only a few people, but maybe we really pushed that. We could get a Boys and Their Toys Day going and have a lot of people out with weed
Well,
whackers.
I wouldn't just say the money would be lower. I wouldn't just have that premise. We could also maybe get money, do some fundraising or something.
Possibly.
Because
that
for
sounds
us doing work there, it is a large property.
It
and,
is a large
You know,
property.
everybody has their own yard.
Right, I'm not
So-
saying, I mean, I'm way past thinking the committee should be doing the work. We should be organizing and
Right.
coordinating it so that, you know, perhaps volunteer days can do it.
For those thoughts that they did the Christmas are way low in there.
That's great.
That's it for me.
Okay, town center, are there any updates on that?
Well, kind of dovetailing with that. One of the comments we received at our last meeting was that folks would like to see it as more of a demonstration garden that I currently maintain. And Nona and I were able to meet with Justin and talk to him and get a better understanding of how funds are currently used, how donated time is split between town center and Springdown and the limitations. That conversation now is a different twist to it with, you know, the possibility of finding additional funds for other contractors. Basically under the budget we've been operating under, we could find an additional contractor and identify additional work items. Now I'm assuming that that is not going to be an option and we need to look at efficiencies for identify our priorities of how they want the Go Native money to be spent, if it continues to be a 50-50 split, if there's any change in it. And we also talked about, you know, if we want to improve the quality of any part of the garden, it probably needs to also be some kind of a volunteer.
Yeah, Dita and we looked last week at the Capsinol Garden, which I think you remember at the beginning, it was stunningly beautiful and there's really hardly anything left. And I was thinking, well, I could bring certain seats, which I know they work. So yeah, we could do something from our side.
And that Capstone Meadow looks a whole lot better than it did 2 years ago because they took out all the dead crap at our
That's
suggestion.
correct.
And there are a couple of spectacular milkweeds there.
Actually, that's the only stuff that's left.
I also definitely was able to find the paper plans. Justin found the paper plans for the town center and was able to take a photo and send me the plant list. So we now have the complete.
Oh, nice. Good.
One of the places the narrow leaf milkweed disappeared was above the wall behind the center. But there were some further down towards the pavement area. So they're still there, but there's fewer of them. Everybody's seen them over.
I don't know where you're
Spring
talking
Down?
about.
The
By the
narrow leaf-
wall?
The narrow
town
leaf
hall.
milkweed, there used to be all along the upper part of the wall, and they're all gone.
Oh, between the soccer field and the,
No, between the Redwood Grove
There's
and
a
the
dogwood.
town center.
Dogwoods.
oh, right. Outside of the manager's office, there were a lot.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
facing up, yeah.
I would like,
Yeah, it actually looked like they were spreading there for quite a while,
They were, and then the
expanding.
drought came and they pulled back. Did everybody see the spring down yet? I didn't. The narrow leaf.
I checked.
Okay. Well, one of the things is where you plant them in the water, they're really late coming up this year because it's cold.
Okay, well, I think this is a good place to segue into the conversation about
actually,
prioritizing.
I don't know if I can do it, but I have a point that goes under town-owned properties, and that is, I'm blanking, the trail,
Oh, Shady Lane.
Shady Trail. So I looked at Shady Trail, and the town-owned property has not been tended to. It has several very dead oaks, which are a fire hazard. It has a thistle patch. And the sad thing is, it's really the only property along Shady Trail that is not being managed. All the other properties, apart from Poison Oak, don't have invasives.
Right.
So I sent a note to Howard. I didn't hear back. I sent it to you. This property has been in possession of the town for several years.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, is there any money for maintenance? Is there no money? But now it's even a fire hazard. So something has to happen on the Shady Trail property.
There's not currently regular maintenance like there is at Springdown, and Bev Lipman has taken that under her wing. And I just got a note from her the other day saying that she'd finally gotten rid of the thistle. She works out, she's the,
Well, the thistles
Yeah.
were there this week. So if she got rid of them yesterday, it is
Yeah.
way too late. They're all, they're all seeded.
right, she may have gone out with a bag. She knows what she's doing. I don't know. But as far as I know, Bev's the only one who takes care of that.
Yeah, but the dead trees, they have fallen over. Some of them are older than 1 year because they're so dry. And
I thought there'd been a decision made like a year ago to leave the trees that fell over because there was gonna,
you can leave the trees, but you cannot leave the dry kindling. We asked that from every homeowner, and we ask homeowner to cut the weeds, and the weeds are not cut there either. So this is a sort of a red flag.
Well, but a lot of that is in a riparian corridor, and so you have to be a little bit careful about how much weed whacking you do. I mean,
Well-
the habitat there should be maintained.
It's up the hill. So red herring further? The hill,
Well,
going up the hill.
right, but the trail is along the
Yeah.
creek. And so, or say, some number of feet, at least 20 feet.
Yeah.
it
But
should be
that's all,
maintained
it's
as
all in the
part
hill.
of it.
It's in the hillside. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
I would think the most efficient way to deal with that short term would be to put something on PV Connect, say this, fire hazard on open space. And so it's right there in the list where they have to look at it and they have to, put it into column A, B, C. They may not have to do anything about it, but it's better than just sending an email off to someone because it's
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, to put it in the PV Connect.
It will sit happily there. Yes, I can do that.
Peter, nobody can hear you. Who's
Speak into the,
I fully agree with your assessment of fire danger relative to the thistle patch. It should come down, but oaks, even dead oaks, are not really a major fire hazard. They're not.
well, you should look at it. It's just,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Any kind of oak, but the oaks, no.
I'm not talking about oak trunks. I'm talking about dry little, a real oak that's still there with all the leaves, but they're all dry. So usually we leave the trunks there. That's not a problem, but usually we cut the greenery, actually, while it's still greenery, usually when a tree goes down.
maybe it needs to be brought to the attention of the fire marshal.
Well, that's, yeah, I can do that, but
Your
then
major concern is the fire.
it's
as
the
opposed
major
to the-
concern
yeah.
is the fire. Yeah. And also,
I think your other point was that it's a red flag that things are not being maintained and
Yeah.
they're, so I don't know how exactly.
Well, in all fairness, let's be real. This has been an incredibly difficult year. Public Works has been bending over backwards, clearing down trees, clearing other types of vegetation. I think it's a little harsh to say things are not being taken care of. I think we need to look at this and put it in perspective. It's not that someone's not doing something, it's that there has been so much on their plates that this maybe hasn't received the attention we think it deserves. And that it would be appropriate to call it to their attention that this is an area that may have slipped through the cracks or something. But
I think that's fair.
yeah, it's just also, we can't on the one hand expect from all the residents to do the mowing and to do the fire hazards. And then we have this big property there by the town. And it's the opposite of a good example. That's what worries me too.
Yeah. Understood, yeah. All right.
Probably here.
I think there was a thought from the budget that open space and conservation would work together on this and figure out what the priorities are and make sure that the town open spaces were being taken care of.
That's terrific. Yeah, we can certainly work together and make priorities, but if there's not
They
enough
have
money to
money.
go around, then. Yeah, okay. I think it would be a lovely idea. I think, it's been floated that we have a joint meeting with open space and sit down and actually talk about what's what and
I
what our
actually,
priorities
yeah,
are, their priorities are, and yeah.
I talked to Tizian today and she's all on board on that as well. And views this whole thing as the beginning of a conversation about how we're gonna prioritize and maintain our open spaces. So my understanding is that this is a temporary patch for this year and we will see going forward. Maybe. I don't know. Mary, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah. Because it is a very difficult time as from the budget point of view. I think a very unpopular thing that happened was that we agreed and voted on it and okayed the budget and taking 10% of the UUT. So, but we held it as 1 year and that would only be 1 year. And with the proviso that you would go to open space and talk the open space about how things are going to be prioritized and where that money would be
Right.
best used, and make sure that they're comfortable and everybody's comfortable with how we move forward.
Right. And I think that we're in general, we're aligned. We just need to communicate more.
Yeah,
So
and about each one of the open spaces, because one of my big concerns is the one off Escobar, which is an open space you probably don't even know about, that has probably got really important archaeological things. It's completely densely overgrown. It's right on a canyon, and it's town-owned open space.
Yeah. Pepperell.
We actually know,
No, it's a steep canyon. Yeah.
Oh, all the way down, okay, that part.
we actually know about every single town-owned property, because 5 years ago, when we did that exhaustive report, we included every property there was on the town-owned property list, and we segmented them into the 5 most important and the 5 intermediates, and then all the rest. And he said, we're going to, spend all our time and energy on the 5 most important in the beginning, and then we move on to the intermediate. And because we have never really had full funding to do the 5 most important, we have never moved on to the intermediate. But we've done some analysis, and we're ready to roll if it happens.
So can I ask, given where we are on the agenda, is this something that we want to put in the minutes as an opportunity to reassess or reevaluate which town-owned properties, if it's appropriate to be looking at additional town-owned properties for Conservation Committee oversight? I'm a little lost on where we
yeah,
are right now. As
I
far as-
think maybe what we should do is we should propose making a joint subcommittee with a couple of people from our committee and to be named people from the Open Space Committee.
Well, the other thing, because I remember that vividly from earlier discussions, the open space money is very clearly identified, and there isn't that much a percentage of the open space money that is allowed to be used for maintenance. So, before we go, I remember how much work we did on Springdown. Before we start, spending hours and hours on priority and plans, let's find out how much money is there, because that's going to be the gating factor. If there is 20,000, then, we don't have to start doing humongous plans and priorities. We'll know there isn't money. So that's where I would start, because that will then prioritize immediately where we should be looking.
So the ballpark that was about $45,000, $44,000.
So maybe I can just speak from open space. This issue of using the UUT for maintenance has come up many times. And always in the past, the Open Space Committee was opposed to it for several reasons. One is that it was our understanding that the voters' intent was that that money should go only to acquisition purposes and the guidelines that are part of the Open Space Fund. Second, that when it has come up in the past, it usually came up in a budget proposal without any pre-consultation with open space. And so we were blindsided by it. And third is that we were always told, well, conservation needs this money. And so it was pitting the Conservation Committee against the Open Space Committee over a fund that we thought had very strict guidelines. And fourth, I suppose, there was this issue of it being sort of a slippery slope, that if we said, okay, take the money, it wouldn't be 1 year. This is an unusual financial crisis as we understand it, and it's really a council decision. It's not strictly an Open Space Committee decision, but I think we all understand that if there really is a good faith agreement to do it for 1 year and try and find an alternative going forward, then the Open Space Committee is likely to be in support of that. And part of the problem, though, is that it's a long-term problem because the Open Space Fund, in the context of really heating up real estate market, can't keep up with the price of land. And so the more you take money out of the Open Space Fund, not only is it losing money in relation to the, heating up of the real estate market, but then you're also taking out whatever inputs there would have been.
The growth of those inputs through the
The
years.
growth
too.
of those inputs and inputs. as well. So there was a really strong feeling that if this is going to happen on a regular basis, it should go back to the voters. It was a ballot measure to begin with. And, it's one of those things where maybe there's some wiggle room in the wording, but that may not be what the voters thought they were voting for.
That's
Yeah,
great. That's very
that's
lucid.
very helpful.
Thank you. In answer to Teresa's question, I would say that I wouldn't even mention the intermediate properties except to say that if sufficient money arises, we'd love to, expand our
So
look to
what I
yeah.
captured as the action item is to pursue a joint subcommittee with open space. That's what I captured from our discussion as the action item. And is that what the
I think we need to be.
Both the previous lawyer and the current lawyer looked at the document, and they think that it's okay, that it is fairly clear that it's for open space, both maintenance and acquisition. So I think we're doing pretty well, leaving 90% for acquisition. To tell you the truth.
Well, I would like to be on that subcommittee.
Excellent.
And I'm sure Nona needs to be on the subcommittee.
Okay, Judy, Nona, and Marianne on the subcommittee to coordinate with open space.
Because, and to finish it, then worst case scenario, we can always consider fundraising. Blues and barbecue, remember? Blues
Yeah,
and
so that-
barbecue.
I mean, fundraising is a great idea.
It takes time.
Particularly in this community, but I also think that, it might be worth looking at the grant landscape, because I think there's a ton of money for that kind of thing this year.
Yeah, but I don't know how to write the grant.
Well, I don't know either. but,
Yeah, so that's the
um,
question. Who is going to do the work for a grant? I don't think we do.
Right.
Mary,
Right.
give her
So-
the mic,
so-
give her the mic.
One thing.
Mary's in it,
I
but
have
do you have to
written
turn it
grants
on?
Before, so I can help with the initial.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can do some on our own, and I think there are people in the community who can write grants.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And just putting out feelers for everybody to put out feelers for what grants are available. I know, the politicians are coming up to me now and saying, we can help you get grants. And I guess we just open our little eyes and look.
So I was thinking we
Yeah,
could just,
no,
is that it?
Oh, good.
So Mary, no.
Good.
So who's in charge of the
so-
subcommittee and making the connection with open space? Mona? Since you're in both, you got to put in both territories.
Great. Okay. So I think that's, I think one of the other things that I guess it really comes after the discussion with the open space is what the budget's going to be, because we don't know until we've had a conversation with the open space people. So,
Well, we do know, at least I don't know, but Mary knows that there was an amount approved last night, was there not? And that amount was? Okay,
I think it's something, somewhere in the,
40,000 or so.
yeah.
Okay, for everything.
That does not include cutting the trails, right? That has nothing to do with
Not
it.
trails work, it's, or right of way work, it's just open space.
Okay, should I finish my update from the open space? Are we, is that what we're on?
No, not yet.
We're on the public works and budget, and that's why I got a little bit sidetracked, is wondering if we have enough information to start talking about how to prioritize within the 40,000 that we have now.
I think that should wait until the two subcommittees get together. If
Okay,
it's,
okay.
But, sorry, I thought we were on. Because I thought we were.
What we were,
And I was sort of oozing into public works and budget because it was kind of the same thing.
Okay.
I think that's right. And okay, so I agree that the budget should be worked out after the initial contact with open space and how they want to move forward as a joint subcommittee. Okay, now open space committee.
So this is like part 2 of open space, I guess. So the other thing that open space has discussed recently is the status of Dorothy Ford Park in open space. And specifically, what the committee has decided is to reiterate the position that we voiced to the town council a year ago about Dorothy Ford Park should remain as it is, open space. And you know, the problem that we see there is not that different from the allocation of the UUT, where in both cases we're told, well, there is the law allows the town to change the way things have always worked, right? And so open space keeps feeling like, okay, but that doesn't really agree with what townspeople have understood was the principles under which we operated, so that everyone thought Dorothy Ford Park was secure, but actually there's sort of a loophole in the deed agreement, and I guess the town can take it if they want for affordable housing. So there's a really important parallel, I think, there. So anyway, what open space has done is we sent that letter to the council, and also voiced some concern about a new development that we don't really know very much about, which is that the inclusionary housing fund, because I think the name it was given, is being renamed, repurposed to some extent as an affordable housing trust fund. And we have some concerns about what that really means in terms of what the money can be used for. So we've asked for more clarification.
So there were a couple of committees that were asked to weigh in on the prioritization for the inclusionary housing fund, which is what I keep thinking of it as. First it was the in lieu fund, and then I think it was the inclusionary housing fund, open space, race and equity, and I can't remember the third one. And we and the other committees, pardon? Finance. We and the other committees weren't, because we're not integral to that process. But I think it would be important for us to weigh in support of open space. At this point, when the process was going on, we did weigh in strong opposition to using Dorothy Ford Park. And I think, you know, in some ways the horse is out of the barn, but in other ways it's not. And so I think it's important to just get ourselves back on the record. And the same, I don't know if the best way to do it, since we weren't asked to comment on the inclusionary fund, and some of your comments were being funneled through the response there.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I should have said that that was a response to.
yeah,
the question.
I'm not sure exactly how to contextualize it, but I think it's important to do it yet again.
We can always write a letter. I mean, nobody can stop us from
Right,
writing
no,
a
I
letter.
just, we should write a letter. The question is how best, what's our maximum impact? How do we frame that letter and how do we contextualize that letter? And right now, the opportunity would seem to be to say that we're aware of what open space is doing and our strong alliance with those principles, da, 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 da.
I actually think that conservation could take a slightly different angle on this and maybe address some of the conservation issues with the property that haven't really been fleshed out, such as the riparian corridor, the floodplain issue, all of that stuff, the endangered species in the creek. It's not clear to me that the analysis has really looked into enough the possibility of the creek continuing to meander and whether or not the building setback for that property would be sufficient for that. So I think there are actually quite a lot of conservation issues that, I agree everyone's looked at it, but maybe not looked at it in the detail that it really needs.
Mona, is there something we could pull Fish and Game in?
Oh, they would have to be consulted in any case. It would require permitting.
No, isn't that level of study something that would need to happen when there's actually something proposed to happen on the site? Not, I mean, especially if we're sitting here talking about budgets, I don't see that being something we could reasonably expect to get. We all know that it'll become an issue should someone propose to build anything. And they'll probably find out that they can build some fraction of what they think they might be able to on the site. But I don't know if it makes sense to bring it up now when it's still just a, out of the no options that we have, here is one.
Yeah, and it's another instance where we're between a rock and a hard place, where if we really want to be compliant on affordable housing and the RENA allocation, then we have to have something on the table, right? And we all support that. On the other hand, there are a lot of reasons why that's a very inappropriate site to put high density housing. And so I guess my feeling is that obviously there would have to be all kinds of permitting down the road if there is a development plan. But is that the best use of time to get to that point before you start raising the issues that are going to inevitably come up? And maybe just highlighting some of what they are now would help frame the question.
Proactive.
No, I agree. And I don't think it's a matter, we're not asking for them to, spend any money or do any studies or anything. We're just making a list of all the concerns, because my concern is it'll stay on the table. It'll, and then they'll do all those studies and they'll find that they can only build 12 things instead of the 30 they need.
And we
they'll
lose
destroy
it.
the whole park.
And we lose it.
12 things. So we will have lost everything and gained very little. That's the biggest concern that I have.
I definitely agree. I just wonder if there's anything we can offer that is a constructive message, rather
Maybe
than
just-
saying this isn't going to work to
Mhm.
meet the need.
Yeah.
We have these concerns that it's going to be of limited effectiveness if we do build there, forecasting the types of things that biological studies will uncover.
Right.
We've all been racking our brains for this, but
Yeah.
I would love to be constructive.
I agree.
I think
I
that's
agree.
really important too.
Mhm.
We're right now taking feedback, and it's being information is being accumulated by one person who's writing up the policy. And I think that without much difficulty or too many twisted arms, I could say that conservation wants to have a letter included in that synthesis and do that as part of the inclusionary housing Because these criteria we're talking about, riparian zones, endangered species, water quality, et cetera, they're really important and they should be included in this. And they have to be included if we're about to get good new options that are not. Because there's going to be negative conservation impacts for everything we do. So we're going to have to clarify that we're not against everything. We're for weighing the pros and cons of each one and making sure those considerations are being taken into account. So that letter to Judith, that would then go to us.
But Mary, I think that what's currently happening with that subcommittee is looking at sort of philosophically prioritizing how the inclusionary funds should be spent. It's not at all on which properties or
No,
that. kind
no,
of
it's not.
thing.
That's why it's
Yeah.
slightly off the agenda.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's also slightly off that letter. What we're saying has so little to do with the prioritization of the inclusionary housing funds that I'm not sure that's. No, they'll look at this and
We
they'll
haven't
say, well,
seen it.
that's right, but that's not what we're doing. I don't know. I mean, we can always do it. We could scattershot, I suppose, but it seems to me it would be more important to do it with planning or the people who are looking for alternative sites. Isn't there a subcommittee actively looking for alternative sites? Okay. I thought there was. Maybe I was
Oh,
looking
there
for
is
it.
a Sunrise group there.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
So
I'm,
maybe-
I'm not sure where we are. So
Maybe the Sunrise
exactly
group would
on
be
on
the-
whether or
Just
not, so, no, are we writing a letter?
It
And
might be a good idea for us to draft this letter and have it ready to go when we figure out the best possible place to put it, because in the next couple of months, that might become clearer.
would like to participate in
Uh,
drafting that letter.
We believe we're going to have this done in August. So that's going to be right around the corner.
The inclusionary housing fund thing.
But I think the policy should have an environmental component. I'm just,
I would like to write something with whoever else on the committee. And even if it's just something we have, sort of ready to stamp and send out.
I'll do that. Megan, will you do it too? You're such a good wordsmith.
That would be
Excellent.
great.
I think that's 2% start.
Well, and it has meandered more in the past, for sure. I mean,
This is what happens is they tend to straighten the street, try and keep it there. It cuts down and then it starts to meander. It doesn't do that. You saw what it did on Alpine Road. You can look the trees falling this time. It's starting that cycle.
and I don't think anyone thinks it's the ideal site. It's just all we've got right now, right? So.
And I also think, I don't know how we get at it, but I think this whole thing about the puny little letter of the law as opposed to the spirit of the law is very important and critical to sort of how the town functions. And I don't know how you keep that on the table, but it's distressing that it's.
Okay, so I have Megan, Judy, and Nona working on that letter. Excellent. Great. Okay. Anything from the wildfire?
Nona said, you said you'd be in charge of the last thing. I'll be in charge of this one, just in terms of saying, I haven't done it yet.
No, is there anything on the wildfire preparedness committee?
So after our subcommittee, which is Megan and me, after we submitted our comments to Don, which we did a track changes version of the 2303 ordinance and then included those changes into 2304. Don agreed to meet with us and to work with us on it. But he isn't really ready to quite yet. So that's still pending. In the meantime, wildfire preparedness has grown concerned about the ordinances and the lack of transparency and the process associated with
approval of the new ordinances. And so they too are working with Don to try and get copies of the ordinances that can be shared with the public, to collect feedback from the public, and to get that back to Don. From this committee, so I'm the liaison from this committee to that committee, and they asked if I could share the comments that we had given to Don with wildfire preparedness to incorporate in the feedback that they give to him. And I discussed this with Marianne and with Megan, and we agreed that that actually is potentially counterproductive to our working with Don, because he is actually part of our subcommittee already, and it's been a month now since we gave him our comments. So right now, our position, which I think it would be helpful to get feedback from the whole committee on, is that the two committees can work in parallel on these, on different aspects of the ordinances.
I think that's right.
Do you guys want to add anything?
Okay. Was there anything from Trails and Path?
I don't know, because I was on the committee.
All right. Okay. The routine town communications. Do we have any kudos?
Yeah, I was going to bring this up to the experts here. At least on my property, the star thistle this year is earlier, bigger, much worse. And so I assume that that property is not the only property where this is happening. And so I was thinking of maybe putting something out on star thistle, like saying, thank you for doing it. And if you didn't, that's what it looks like, and keep an eye on it.
One of the tips of the month. I can
Yeah.
send that out.
Oh,
right-
yeah, tip of the
Right
month. I'm
a-
sorry.
right away,
That it's
yeah.
a tip of the month. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's-
And then if that goes out, then it would end up being a kudo. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Good.
And so we could still do what we decided last month, that the kudo will be, thank you for cutting the weeds. For cutting the weeds.
Yeah, it makes sense to have the
Yeah.
tip go out and then a couple weeks later,
That's
the thank you
right.
go out
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
timing.
Yeah, because the kudos we had decided last week, and for some reason we were just delaying it, and I forgot now what the reason was, but we had a reason for delaying it.
Not the only thing.
I'm responsible for a lot of delays. Okay. Move on.
Sorry, but was the tip of the month star thistle? Is that what you
Star.
said?
Yellow
Yellow
star.
star
I just
thistle.
wanted to make sure I got
Yeah,
it
thank
right
you.
this
Yeah, yellow star.
I think that's
Yellow star system.
Yellow star thistle. Yes. Let's call it the right word.
Star.
Centuria. Okay, what's blooming now?
Yeah.
It isn't called Salsatina for nothing.
I like the Clark, yeah. I think that's cool. Right. I'll do that one the next day or two. Good.
The what?
They're starting. Yeah, they sure are. Start the,
Mayfield Power Plant between you, well, it's not a whole lot.
I still need to save stuff for September, October, so.
As 280. Well,
I remember last year you said it was really good.
Well, and we're trying to highlight things that we hope people will put in their own gardens, right? When we do this, these are natives that are blooming, they're beautiful. You could grow that, you should grow this.
Oh, actually, you know what is blooming now? The coyote mint. Coyote mint. Coyote mint. And it's blooming beautifully. I've never seen it so beautiful. And maybe that's more common than,
It's really commercially available.
yeah. So
And it
maybe that
makes
would be a
like-
better one.
It makes a good kind of ground cover.
Yeah, and
think
it
so.
grows by itself. it doesn't need water. See,
I can
yeah,
do-
that's what you mentioned.
I
It's
can
just-
do both.
You can do both, yeah.
Yeah. What was the second one?
Coyote Mint.
Coyote
Mint.
Mint.
Good. Okay.
It might also be worthwhile at some point to let people know what tarweed is. If we're talking about star thistle, it does tend to compete within the same niche in the grasslands. And so for people to know that it is something good and not just a smelly, sticky annoyance.
Yeah, you might include that in your saying, take out the star thistle.
Yeah.
Oh,
You might
yeah.
include, but here's this wonderful
And
plant
then
that
the
we
a-
also have,
yes.
don't take it.
Perfect. Good. Okay, backyard habitat. Is there any?
I
Any-
see the properties because I'm doing 50 miles a week and I see them, but it's hard going.
Okay. Uh, And then under new business,
Yeah, we had for the coyote stuff, we were going to have this subcommittee with Judy, and we just haven't done anything yet. Yeah, you and I were going to go into the existing document, you know, with the islands and da-da-da, and then just, it's not going to be a lot of,
It was about the island.
it was about the island.
yeah, yeah, that goes hand in hand, yeah.
So that's great. The way I did this is kind of just sort of rolled into what we want to have on our website, because it's kind of, we definitely need to put the new plant list there. There's a lot of stuff that's outdated. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been updated. There's a whole and then we actually need to get the sustainability and a couple other places to change out the plant list, and then link it to our list.
Are you already at B? Are you now already at B at the website?
No. Well, so,
Hey, we're at A,
so what I think is that document that you guys work on about coyote sightings and ways to keep them away from the house is a good document to go on that website, on our website as under the resources. And so I guess what I wanted to do was just use as a springboard to get a subcommittee to help me put together the web.
I'll help you. I'll
Good,
help you.
good.
And the reason why I want to help you, because for some reason I find nothing when I Google on the town website, or hardly anything under conservation. And then I always hear from from you guys, oh, it's there. And so I just would like to work with you and say, when my thinking, maybe it's my age, whatever, this is what I'm doing. And all I ever get is
think
stuff
that
from sustainability.
Okay.
And so I would be happy to work with you.
Excellent.
Some of the stuff, the search function is crappy. That if you go to our page and you go down to
Yeah,
the
but
bottom, then
Judy,
they're listed there.
How do people
I
know?
know, I know,
that-
I
You know,
know.
I mean, go to our page.
But I'm saying we can make our page fabulous. And if searches don't lead people to it,
That's right. And I was thinking, actually, maybe we should talk to Kari.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, she's great. You know, she helped me a lot on the other committee. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So let's also work with Kari, because
Right.
that's right. If it's then there, that's not good enough. People need to find it with a simple question.
Maybe it would be even better to have something up on there about rural living, and then below that conservation, maintaining habitat, so on and so forth. Because that's what it's supposed to be, a rural town.
Right. Well, that
was-
seems to be changing.
Oh, but supposed to be
Well, what were the words that you used? I like that.
actual tablet talk.
Yeah, right. And I think
That way people say, what's rural living?
right now it's organized under the government and by committee.
Yeah, we won't be
But I
able
heard
to
you
do it.
have
Yeah.
One of the
We'll-
suggestions for Carrie
but-
might
but
be that
we'll-
there,
we'll talk
think
about it. We'll
Yeah,
talk
we
about
could-
To suggest.
Yeah.
yeah, and another suggestion is that there be
people
some,
able to approach these things from different angles.
some
because-
redundancy between them so
Yeah.
that on the you don't take it away from us, but
No.
you link to ours
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Exactly. Don't
Yeah.
take it away.
Right,
Absolutely.
right,
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay.
Thank God it's there.
Right.
That would be where the booklet would be found.
So Marianne and me, and does anyone else want to help? I think you can do it. Yeah, all right. Okay, and then the last thing on this agenda is 7C. And I just wanted to mention, I think I sent it to everybody, that there is a database of conservation easements in California. And it looks like it's something that can be added to, kind of like a wiki thing. I'm sure there's more regulations about it than a wiki thing, but in principle, things can be added. Right now, it's only public lands. It's Post and Midpen in our area, and there's a number of private conservation easements that I know of that are not in it. So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that resource of having a database of private conservation easements doesn't exist yet, but there is a framework in which it could be built. And if we wanted to think, still budget notwithstanding, think about hiring an intern to help us identify the conservation easements.
You know, I like your idea with the intern, and I was actually talking to a friend. There are plenty of interns that work for free.
Yeah.
They work for free because they want to be an intern and there is no money. So it seems generally it is not difficult to find an intern to work for free. Now, I think all the active ones are already working because and I have asked around, and the ones I know, unfortunately, are all working, and they were working for free. So I just want to put this out to everybody. You know, if you know somebody, a grandchild or a cousin or whatever,
Yeah.
who is out of school, of college, that are the people who are interns and work for free.
Yeah,
So ideally, we start the process in May and not as we're going into July, because that's how you get them. But the other, there's another site that Trails had come up with that had easements on it, remember? That we talked about. Gary Henning had talked to me, and when I brought it up, he said that, yeah, they talked about it at the Trails Committee. So,
But there are a lot of legal issues around this, a lot.
right, that's what I was bringing up, exactly.
Huh.
So there's this site, there's that site, and if this one even lets private stuff on it, did you say it looked like it was all public? Oh.
Everything that's entered so far is public, but it's clear that there's places
They asked
for
they
private.
requested-
It's just only been populated by
Got it.
by the big guys.
Because what it comes down to is the one that Trails came across sounded like, aha, here's the answer, it's gonna have. And then when they looked at it more closely, it didn't have everything.
Well,
Or there
so
were
that's what
some,
I
there was just
thought.
an indication that you had to go to the deed to really be sure. So it's gonna take somebody who can really do some work.
Yeah.
But I agree with Mary Ann, there are lots of these kids around, and maybe somebody who just wants a month, who doesn't need paying, but the hooker is, we'd have to hire them, even though there's no money, we'd have to hire them through the town and get approval and all of that. And then there's a little bit of training they might have to have, and who's going to do that. But it's something that so badly needs doing. And I've been talking for years about how badly it needs doing. So, you know, these people are studying public policy or how to be a town manager, or, you know, all of those people need ancillary.
It's
internships or-
prestigious, you know, you do an internship for the town of Portola Valley for an interesting conservation topic. I mean, this is something for your resume.
So we need to find the grant writer to help us write a grant.
No,
so that
this
we
is
can-
not money. This is free.
Just-
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't come. This is like my husband. I don't get
So
that.
maybe through grassroots ecology, that would be an obvious place to start, to
Ah,
think about
yeah.
where to find a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually Stanford has internships for undergraduates, and they pay them, but they can be internships where they go to, you know, nonprofits, to companies, to all kinds of things. So we could try that next year.
Yeah, Chuck, my husband also mentioned that Santa Clara he's an adjunct there, so he has access to the students there.
Yeah, so a law student would be perfect. 'cause
He
they gotta
said
go
it would
digging
be
in the
so cheap.
deeds. Yeah.
We just need to get our act together.
Right.
We need
So
to know what
who-
it is we're asking them to do though. So that's what we need.
So
before we
we
move
need a
forward.
couple people to make a subcommittee.
Well, I'll do that. I mean, I can't find the intern, but I could certainly help shape the, what
I-
she's
I
talking
think
about
that's
and.
it. So
Yeah.
Teresa, Judy, can work on that. Great, and creating a framework.
I really think it should be jointly with Trails if you can. because
Yes,
they have done a
absolutely.
lot of the legwork.
Yeah. So that's why it's great, Teresa's.
I mean, we could really make an impact if we get this done.
Well, once again, it's always nice to demonstrate to the town that a committee can provide extraordinarily valuable, cost-effective information. That they don't have to go hiring expensive consultants.
Right. All right. Well, we've reached the end of our, we didn't even make it to 8:30. Good. Does anybody want to stick around longer?
Yeah.
I think unless anybody has anything else they want to discuss. we
Oh,
can-
yeah, I thought this was going to be on the agenda. I forgot. We were talking about putting a link on the website that goes to the homeowners one pager about about Sudden Oak.
Sudden
there.
Oak Death. So
And
that's part of the website.
It's part of
And-
that.
and
Okay, because
so-
we have the link and this is something this is something we can do quickly with
Right.
Kari. It's
Right.
just that I don't know if the committee says, yes, we want to put that link out. That's why I'm
I think
bringing
we
it up.
want to put
think-
everything.
Yeah,
I
I think
mean,
we talked
already
about this
agreed.
last time,
Yeah.
and thought it would be complicated and Megan found one
She
that
found that fabulous
exists
one
already that
pager.
was perfect,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, I
Perfect.
got that.
Should be on, that has to be included in this. Great island. There, that one. And we've got so much great stuff.
No, this is just really a helpful hint for Sudden Oak.
Yes.
So do you want me to talk to Kari about that, to put that link out?
Well, let's you and I talk about it.
Okay, we'll
and
talk
then-
offline.
But it should be part of the first tranche of things that we have her do. Yeah, for sure. Okay. I don't know how,
You told him that you were gonna refer to subcommittees, so
that's what
I think
told him.
one of the problems is he started talking as if we're doing one mowing a year. And we're clearly, at
Well,
least
that's
in
why
the
I told
ones,
him I thought his facts were wrong.
at least on the important, important spaces, on the intermediate spaces, we're lucky if we're doing that. We're probably doing no mowings a year. So,
Well, the thing is, he's talking about doing more work than we're currently doing. And we know we have less money. We can't even do what we are already doing. So it's sort of futile. to
I'll
go
send
in
him an
this
email.
direction.
He badgers me
Okay.
and I'll send him an email, let him know there've been budget cuts and we're sorry, but we can't
Yeah.
do that this year.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a kind of a gut feeling that our people could be more efficient. If they got the timing right, that we have the resources to do it. If we can somehow get the timing right, then
He's
it
sort
should
of
be-
drumming up, wanting to be our consultant. If you actually ask him, early or before the year even started in the fall, because we'd had trouble with the timing with Donated. I said, I will send the proposal that I can give to Public Works for how much it will cost, da, 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 da. He could never produce that. And it turns out he has some workers and they work every Saturday and Sunday in Woodside. And he's not prepared to do the actual work. He just wants to get some consultancy.
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have enough knowledge about this. About
But
the
in fact,
mowing.
Right, but
it's
see,
basically
I guess-
his program that we've been following at Springdown, except for the fertilizing stuff he wants. to do. Yeah, we haven't been great about the timing of it, but
I guess
Gotten
my
better and
biggest
better.
concern, and this may not be the right forum, but just the data, that he has data that he's sharing, that
I don't think we understand, and it would be good if we understood what his data was and how he measured it, because he's presenting it to the fire department. And I think we need to understand. it.
Yeah, and he's giving classes and I saw on the PV forum, some residents were recommending, hey, he's giving this class.
So what, the general thing, which is you mow more often, all of that. I mean, some of the fundamentals of it are very sound. They're not going to hurt anything.
No.
Okay, let us adjourn. Do we need a?
No, you only need a motion
I
if you
can
haven't
never
completed the
remember.
business.
All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. Well, thank you, Nancy, for coming.
You're still interested? Or did we scare you off?
It took me a long time.
Really?
You have a loud voice.